Welcome back to another session of Three Ball Walk. Eddie?
No, I'm Eddie.
Eddie.
I'm Bob.
And here it is. While you guys were there, I was warming up. I've never warmed up before.
Eddie,
I should
you're
just
Julio.
go cold.
Yeah.
Bob, Eddie, Julio,
Yes.
here for Three Ball Walk. This week, sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper, the official soft drink of the SEC, and the official sponsor of the best commercials ever coming out for Halloween with Coach Spurrier on it. Let's just say, Coach Spurrier dresses up as Larry, the Dr. Pepper dude, and it's hilarious. You got to watch it. Go.
I know he's topless in one.
He is topless in one. That you can miss.
I haven't seen it.
He's topless in one. I did see that.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Baseball playoffs?
I'm gonna drink this during the show too. By the way.
Well, that's what it's here for.
Yes, it is. So there you go.
You know, but Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper, my favorite.
And
unfortunately,
which one of us is a doctor?
me.
There you go, Dr. Gilly.
Yeah, Dr.
Yes,
Gilly.
he
He's a
is.
nurse.
Yes, I am. I am.
about it?
How about it? It's good. Dr. Pepper's my favorite. And unfortunately, it's a favorite of a lot of people who probably were drinking a lot of it mixed with something else after Texas went down the tubes. My team, I picked the win.
Yes. Well, you
Both teams.
made the mistake, and something to talk about. You made the mistake of picking the higher seed.
I did, apparently.
And the higher seed, okay, since 2012, the higher seed comes out, and this is the best team in the league, and they get the benefit of playing the wild card,
Right.
and comes out about half the time. Okay.
Well, what is it if you're not playing the wild card? What is it between 2 and 3? The higher
You're-
seed.
Well, but that doesn't matter, and I'll tell you why. Because the wild
Why
card.
does that not matter?
Because they're both a division champ. They both played their last game of the season on Sunday, and they both have the first game of the playoffs on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday,
Okay.
where the number one seed finishes the season.
I get that. I get where you're going with that. We talked about that last week about continuing to play.
Right.
And meanwhile, and I'll tell you, the Cubs probably, they beat the Giants, and we'll get into last night's debacle of the game. So the Cubs as the one seed were able to escape the Giants, and I'll tell you, the bottom line was because they went out and threw a heck of a game in game one. They were able to come up with 2 hits. One was a home run, and they won game 1-0. If not, the cold bats for 5 days would have hit them because the Giants had just finished the game, but the Giants got mowed down. Meanwhile, by the time the Rangers bats got going in game 3,
Too late.
and they're already on the road too. They basically, they scored 1 run in game 1. They've been sitting for 5 days. The Blue Jays had just gotten to play, gotten to hit, and
Got on
I
the
look
plane
at
and
it. So
went on.
I actually went back and looked, and there has not been a single year where the number one seed division winner has not lost to the wild card. And last year and in 2012, it happened twice. So
You mean one of the teams has won?
one of the wild
one of the wild
cards
cards
has
has won.
advanced
to the second round.
divisions, to the NLCS, ALCS, or in a couple cases
All the way to the World Series.
all the way to the
Kansas
World
City.
Series and wins it.
Yeah, it won it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think there is some value to that, but I also think it's an interesting thing happened on the way to my prediction. I predicted both teams, the Giants and the Rangers.
Yep.
And both of them lost. So both of mine are gone. My provisional pick, like when you playing golf and you hit a ball that looks like it's out of bounds, you hit a provisional.
Yep.
My provisional was the Cubs, so they're still in it. But there's a good chance that the curse of the Cubs will come into play in this series, and they won't make it any further.
I don't think so. I think that it's the Cubs' year. I've said that since the very beginning of the season. The one thing about last night that upset me more than anything, their comeback was unbelievable. The one thing that made me very upset was the fact that I fell asleep in the 7th inning and didn't get to see it.
Oh.
Other than that, I was good. I mean, I was sitting there like okay. If I was driving a car, it'd been over in a ditch. I told Amy, make me a colada. And she goes, but you won't go to bed. I don't want to go to bed. I want to see the game. Another 4 hours.
And I don't want to sit there and say
you're
you're predicting that or you're waiting for it.
Right.
But the Rangers and the Cubs led the major leagues this year with wins going into the 9th inning trailing. Each team 9 times. And if you think about that, they win 100 games, 90 games, 10% of the games they were losing going into the 9th inning.
Right.
Okay? And then on the other coin, all those losing teams from the Marlins to the Twins to the Braves and whatever, taking a lead into the ninth inning and losing it, who had the most in the major leagues?
I'm going to guess it was the Giants.
Oh, yes, it was. 10 times.
I read
More than the losing teams. It was the Giants. So you've got the combination of the 10-time losing going into the ninth with a lead Giants against the 9 times winning going in, or trailing.
9 out of 162 games.
No, because you're not trailing going into.
Well, but
you figure
the
80 something of them you were leading.
Right, but the most it could be is 162 games. I mean, you lose 9.
If you go 162 and 0,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah.
No one's done that
No,
yet.
no one ever has done that. But you know, my thing with the whole thing is I went to sleep. I tell you, I came in and had a long day yesterday. Started at 5:45, keeping my grandkids, and then long day of work here and teaching to 100 students or so last night, and then meetings after that, and got home about 10:20, and like, oh yeah, the game's on. So I turned it over there and I watched it till about 11:20, and by 11:20 my eyeballs were in the back of my head, and I was like, well, it's 5-2, it's in the 6th. I'm going to bed. So I turned it off. I think that's the problem with catering to a West Coast time zone for a game. I get why you want to do that, but 3/4 of your population of the country has said adios, amigo. And especially the game that went extra innings. I wonder what the ratings were if there was a way to tell at the very
time
end
of
of the game.
walk off by the no, you're absolutely right. However, that one rain makeup of the Dodgers and Nationals, excuse me, was played at 1 p.m. in Washington, which was 10 a.m. LA time. You know, which there's both sides of that coin, and it was one of those. I'll tell you,
if you're at, but it doesn't. The 10 a.m. on the West Coast time doesn't affect the fans who want to watch the game in LA.
You want to talk.
Except
You want to go
maybe.
back, and this is kind of interesting. Wind it back to 1995, and I know it might have been 96, but I believe it was 1995. And what many consider one of the best division series ever in the history of the game was the Mariners and the Yankees that year, where it was just ridiculous baseball, and every game ended like at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and everything like that. And I remember, and that's the problem with the division series. But I would rather have 1 at 12, 1 at 3, 1 at 6, and 1 at 9, and be able to watch them all on the same network, which is, you know, on a popular network, not on a hunt through your TV set trying to figure out.
Well, that's
where
what they've
it's at.
all been on, is unpopular networks. Really, you have to search for them.
And there's still been overlap.
And there's still overlap.
Last night with the 2 games. And one thing about baseball, this can't really off topic, but I mean, they got to get Harold Reynolds off there. I never heard a guy talk more in my entire life. I thought he was trying to sell me a car. I mean, it was just, he talks incessantly.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of.
I mean, I like him in the studio.
I haven't been a fan of any. Truthfully, I haven't been a fan of any of the broadcast teams that I've listened to. I believe it or not, I have turned the sound off and muted it on every game and just watched the game, because I don't need them to tell.
I do as well.
I don't
Mainly
need them to
because
tell
it's
me.
late. My wife is asleep, and she says, "Turn it down, turn it down." I finally mute it. Then she
Yeah, and then she can't say turn it down anymore. You know, and but nobody is compelling. Nobody on those broadcasts is a compelling personality. Ron Darling, please, I'd take Harold Reynolds sitting next to me for 8 hours rather than having 1 inning sitting next to Ron Darling.
I like Smoltz. I think Smoltz is good. I do.
No,
I,
you're a
I'm
Braves
not a Braves fan. I
diehard,
think
so.
he's good. But
I'll tell you one thing I do enjoy watching in the studio.
What's that?
Is Pedro and Chef.
Yeah, they're good.
Pedro and Chef going back, and here's how Gary with his act. Gary, here's how I'd get you out, and Chef is like, well, I know this is coming. So I'm going to be sitting there and whatever. The only thing is you're going to throw this and get me. You know, just watching that.
Or you're going to miss and you're going to get hit hard. I think that some of the games have been compelling. The games have been fun to watch. You know, competitive baseball. If you like pitching, it's been really good. And again, I go back to my statement at the very beginning of the year. Arrieta is the best pitcher.
Why?
because you see him do it in the postseason.
Well, I'll tell you the interesting thing with Arrieta, and it's funny you bring it up, is Baumgartner goes 5 years without giving up a run in the postseason or something like that.
And throw 2 games in this series and did pitch well.
What?
Pitched well in both games.
He threw the shutout and then only gave up 3 runs.
Yeah.
And he's given up 3 runs in the last 30 innings of postseason play, something ridiculous. And how did the 3 runs get scored?
Home run by the pitcher, right?
Home run by Arrieta. Arrieta not only came in, but he is the guy that broke the streak of Baumgartner.
Yep.
And you think about that, at one point, the 2 pitchers for the Cubs had 5, I think 4 or 5 of the 4 of the 5 RBIs were delivered by pitchers on home runs. So, the whole Powerball thing, as we talked about last week, about hitting and power numbers, it seems that in the postseason, the power numbers carry you even more. That they're bigger because the pitchers are going to make their pitches. They're going to get most of the guys out. But when they make a mistake, if you can hammer that
It's hard
mistake,
to put a bunch of hits together.
right, yeah. So if they make a mistake and you hit one out of the park, now you got a 1-0 lead, and now the pressure's on the other team to try to press a little bit, try to do something offensively they don't normally do. And the fact that last night the Cubs came back, I don't know, did they get a ball out of the infield?
I didn't see it at the end. I don't know.
And the whole thing. I was listening to the manager for the Giants talk today. I listened to his press conference, and that's what he was saying. He's just got a few bad breaks there. We got a double down the line, and we had a broken bat single up the middle, and no, we had it just like we wanted to. Well, if you had it just like you wanted to,
You'd be playing tonight.
You'd be playing tonight. You didn't have, you might have had the matchups like you wanted to, but you tell me that the biggest acquisition to me has been Chapman as the closer. If the Giants had gotten Chapman, it's a different series.
Oh yeah.
And I don't care what you say, you left your closer in the pen. You never brought your closer in if you're the Giants.
Well, they don't have a closer.
Well, but you didn't even bring the guy that's been supposedly your closer. You never got to him the same way. Who was it? The other one that they got criticism on, that they lost in the last innings.
That was in the wild card game.
In the wild card game.
The Blue Jays against who? Who did the Blue Jays play?
Oh, who they play?
It was an the Orioles.
The Orioles.
Tens of people that watch this know. So
the Orioles didn't bring they never got their closer in the game.
No.
And to me, the best managerial thing all this series has been the use of Andrew Miller in the middle innings to shut down the opportunity to gain momentum.
Yep.
It didn't work out so well. I guess it's working out okay, but they won one, and so to me, that's been the best thing that the manager's done, is gone against the grain and said, I'm going to pitch my best pitcher when the best chance for them to score is.
And something that hasn't come up, so I'll be the first one to bring it up, and just a little thing, and I remember they made such a big thing about it in the quotes and the tweets and everything like that. Lucroy turns down the Indians, remember? Mm-hmm. Because he wanted to get in the playoffs and went to the Rangers.
Yep.
And the Indians backup catchers who would have been in the minor leagues if Lucroy would have joined them, which I always thought that was kind of funny. Mm-hmm. Sits there and cracks up. Well, we'll go to the playoffs and watch him, and we'll laugh. Well, right now I guess the Indians have more important things to do and to consider and to work on than laughing at Lucroy.
Yeah, a little bit more.
But
and Miller, like I think I said last week, or we've all said this, the 2 teams that went out and got the pitching, the Cubs and the Indians, have moved on.
And it's funny that you bring that up. The Rangers made they won they finished. And if you look at Beltran's stats over the second half of the season, and then you mention Chapman and you mention Andrew Miller and everything like that, and yet once those 3 guys were gone, that's when the Yankees made their run.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine? I mean,
exactly.
The Yankees wound up almost, finished the game out or something. Almost got the wild card, and they were sellers. Yeah, so next year, it kind of makes you look, And
again, the team is always about more than the sum of the parts. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't know what the parts are doing inside the clubhouse. And you may have a great piece individually, but they don't fit with the rest of the team. And that causes clanks every time that part begins to turn.
There was a lot of pieces in the parts of the Yankees.
Well, that's three pieces.
That's 3 big pieces.
And the other thing is, I don't know, I don't remember their schedule, but maybe after they were sold, their schedule just eased up a little bit. They didn't have to play quite as many.
Well, they brought up the rookie.
Yep.
And the rookie
Sanchez,
which we'll see.
He did pretty good.
He did okay.
Yeah.
we did okay for the first session, and we'll be back for part 2.
Right after
So-
this, play ball.
Play ball.